to the show. So we are continuing our work-life series where we dive into the evolving realities and attitudes surrounding work-life balance and workplace culture. So today, we're going to focus on a trend that we are seeing more and more companies adopting and more employees asking for. That is the 4-day work week.
Yes. All right, and here to talk us through the nuts and bolts of the 4-day work week is Joe O'Connor, the CEO and founder of the Work Time Reduction Center here in Toronto. Joe, welcome to the social. Good to have you here.
Everyone seems to be talking about the 4-day work week, especially since the pandemic. But how much is it actually being implemented in the country?
Sure. Well, I think two things have changed since COVID. Number one, employers are much more open-minded to new ways of working. There was a survey from Robert Half this year that suggested that 69% of Canadian employers expected their business to move to some form of 4-day work week in the next 5 years. And we're also seeing on the demand side, I think employees, all of us had this collective experience during COVID where it made a lot of people reassess our priorities and what are the things that are really important in life. So I think on the demand side, we're seeing more and more employees saying, this is something that we would value more than anything else. This is the thing that would entice us to stay in our current job, to move to a new job. You know, even in a recent survey by talent.com, more than work from home flexibility, Canadians are saying the 4-day work week is what we want.
Wow, more than
Fascinating. Okay. So one of the first things that comes to a lot of people's mind, maybe comes to the boss's mind, is productivity. So what are you finding? What amount of work is getting done in 4 days versus 5? What do you see?
Well, the first thing I would say to you is, newsflash, the 4-day work week is actually already here. It's just buried under the rubble of things like overlong and unnecessary meetings, distractions in the workday, outdated processes, and inefficient use of technology.
Yeah.
And once we actually, once we actually put in place a framework and an incentive structure to address these kinds of things within a business, then you find that offering a 4-day work week without impacting your productivity is well within your reach. So this is a productivity initiative. This is an operational excellence initiative. It's not about, you know, doing the same work in the same way in less time. It's as much about changing the way that people work as much as it is about reducing the length of time that people are spending at work.
Yes, but do you find that people are working overtime to get all their work done in those 4 days, and is that a concern for you?
We've been tracking in the global trials that I've been involved in the actual number of hours that people are working, not just their contracted hours. And we all know that for a lot of people, if they're working contracted 5 days, 9 to 5, you might be working more than that into evenings. Maybe you're catching up on a Sunday evening. So what we've seen in these trials is, yes, it might not look like 4 days, 8 hours a day, every single day. Maybe there's going to be a Friday, you need to catch up on a Friday morning. Okay. There's an urgent deadline. But often, you know, the needle on the standard expectation is moving in the right direction. And maybe the thing that you were doing on a Sunday evening, maybe now you're getting the time and space to do that on a Friday morning, and your weekend is protected.
Whoa, okay. Now, Joe, you recently released a landmark report that tracked 4-day work week trials in companies around the world. So what were the major benefits that you saw for employees, but also for employers?
Well, I think the evidence is in at this stage in terms of the trials all over the world. Shorter work weeks lead to happier, healthier employees.
Yes.
We see that across, you know, a range of different employee well-being indicators, but they also lead to more productive, more efficient companies that find it easier to attract and retain talent. So this is something that can genuinely, if it's positioned right, if it's designed right, if the employer and the employee are working together, this can be a win-win.
Love that. Okay. It sounds amazing. People love it. There is resistance to this idea. So when companies are saying, you know what, we're digging our heels in, we're sticking to the 5 days, what's the point of resistance for them that they're saying?
I think there's a first point of resistance, which is mindset, which is this idea that working long hours equates to high productivity, or this kind of idea that it's a badge of honor to be the first person in the office in the morning or the last to leave at night. I think when you get beyond that and you get to genuinely interested employers who are looking at this as a potential option for their business, it's all about the operational challenges. How do we structure this? How do we schedule this? What are the changes that we need to make in the way that we work in order to accommodate it? And these are the kinds of things that we work with businesses to help them overcome in order to be able to achieve a shorter work week.
Okay.
Now, some people associate people who want to work a 4-day work week with people who don't want to work. People just don't want to do it. So what have you found to be true?
I would say that You're right. The 4-day week often gets a bad rap that it's a policy for kind of lazy folks, you know, Gen Zers who are work shy, you know, is something that we often hear thrown about the 4-day work week. In reality, what we've seen in the organizations that have adopted this is that if you're somebody that wants to coast through a work week, you would rather coast through a 5-day work week than have the elevated expectations around efficiencies, around performance accountability that comes with a 4-day work week. This is not a free ride. This is about working hard, working focused for 4 days, and then resting and recharging and recuperating for 3 days. That's what the commitment is about.
Wow, wow. Now, so there are examples in other countries of proposed tax benefits for companies who adopt the 4-day work week. Could you see something like that happening here?
So I'm an Irish guy. I used to live in the States. I moved to Canada last year. I definitely feel like this is a country that people care about work-life balance. This matters to Canadians. And I think there's an opportunity for Canada to really be a leader on this, you know, a country that prides itself on being progressive, on being innovative. And I think that, yeah, I mean, some of those schemes where employers are given some kind of incentive to innovate, because, you know, this is a risk. It takes courage to be the early adapter of anything. So I think there's an opportunity to say, you know what, if you're willing to trial this, if you're willing to measure it, to track it, we're going to give you some support and some encouragement. I think that that would make a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Yep. No pressure here. But you know more about this than anyone we've ever had on the show. So down the line, do you think the 4-day work week will become the norm? Please don't say no.
I think one thing that is for sure is that it's going to be much more common than it is today. I think we're going to see more and more organizations adopt this based on the evidence. We're going to see other organizations, because they're trying to keep up with the competition of others in their industry that are offering this, are going to turn to it. Whether it becomes the norm, I think the big elephant in the room is artificial intelligence. I think that that is going to provide us with the opportunity, if we decide as a society that we want to use that for good, and we want to use that, at least in part, to enable people to work less. We've seen throughout history that advances in technology drive the productivity gains that make reduced work time possible. But that's going to be up to us. Are we going to have this as something that we just bank against the bottom line and we use to achieve cost savings, or are we going to genuinely use it to improve people's lives?
Wow.
Joe, bringing the heavy stuff today. We love this. We've got so much to think about, thanks to you. Joe, thanks for all the work you're doing.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Hey there, what did you think? Drop your comments below and join the conversation. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you can find more on everything from food and fashion to pop culture and current events. See you soon.